South Africa versus Newland at Edgbaston, a knockout match for South Africa, who need to win their last 4 matches to get to a maximum of 11 points and stay alive in the World Cup. New Zealand, second on the points table, and a win over South Africa in Birmingham will put them at the top. Now, of course, you mentioned the South African cricket team and Birmingham, and memories float back 20 years to that epic 1999 World Cup semi-final at this very ground, in which the scores were tied and Australia progressed to the final. I happened to be here 20 years ago, not as a journalist, I'm not that old, but as an 18-year-old just out of high school in India. I was here with my father at this match, and though the memories are fairly fresh, it feels a lot different to be back at this ground 20 years later. As I said, the resonance of that match, it's here in the South African camp. Not many will actually talk about it, but the fact that this is South Africa's first World Cup match in 20 years happens to be at Birmingham against New Zealand, a team which they have not beaten in a World Cup for the last 4 editions. Some will say New Zealand are favourites given their form and place on the table. When you look at South Africa, it's really much like Pakistan, the corner tiger syndrome. Do they have what it takes to bounce back? They're in a must-win situation, as I said, need to win their last 4 matches to get to 11 points maximum, which theoretically could put them in the semi-finals if other teams don't end up winning as many matches. The news from the South African camp is that Lungi Ngidi is back. He's 100% fit, and he will play this match, which means that Buron Hendricks looks the one to sit out. Now, the New Zealand team were a bit shaky in that narrow 2-wicket win against Bangladesh, which means that Imran Tahir stands to be a big threat for them on an Edgbaston pitch which wears a distinctly brown look. There's expected to be some turn here on game day, which also to an extent throws the focus on whether New Zealand will consider playing Ish Sodhi, the leg spinner, who's not got a game in the World Cup yet. But South Africa do have problems against leg spin, which means that perhaps Sodhi gets his first game and the left-arm spinner Mitchell Santner sits out. While it's raining right now, the forecast for game day is fairly good. A bit of rain about in the morning until about noon, but thereafter the forecast is fairly good. And all signs are that we will get a full game. As I said, South Africa back at Edgbaston, where 20 years ago they lost that heartbreaking semi-final to Australia against New Zealand, who have had their number over the World Cup tournaments down the years. The last 2 World Cups, in fact, New Zealand have been the ones to knock out South Africa. In 2011, in the quarterfinals in Dhaka, they beat them by 49 runs. And then, of course, 4 years ago at Eden Park in Auckland, a match which, again, I happened to be there. Maybe I'm the one bringing bad luck to the South African team, was where they with Grant Elliott, of all people, born in South Africa, was the one who knocked South Africa out in that win of 1 ball remaining. Will history repeat itself? Who knows? But all signs are that we're in for a cracker of a match at Edgbaston between New Zealand and South Africa.